I'm Jeff. I'm the entrepreneur in residence here at PACE, and I'm pleased to introduce our panelists today. So I'll just go through quickly their backgrounds, and feel free to add anything if I missed. But we will do a little bit of introductions on what they're working on after this. So first we have Aaron here. Aaron Kagawa. He's the co-founder of Second Wave Technologies, and engineering director at Kentik Technologies. He's got a lot of experience in different startups and tech companies here on Alumni. And next, we have Nicole Cacao. Is that pronounced right? So Nicole's got an awesome background as well. She's the founder and CEO of Forbes Ignite, which is a consultancy, a global consultancy, that she will tell us more about. And she's also a small strategic advisor to small businesses here in Hawaii, and the founder and executive director at Catalista, which is a nonprofit organization that supports entrepreneurship in the Filipino-American community. Aside from those, she's also a lecturer at Parsons School of Design and a speaker at TEDx. All right, and then with Amber, Imai-Hong. Amber is an avionics engineer and program manager at Hawaii Space Flight Labs, and she's been there for 16 years and been working on spacecraft design, development, testing, and community education. And finally, we have Brody Uehara, who is a data engineer at KWH Analytics, which is an insurance tech firm located in San Francisco, the West Coast. But he's here, he works remotely, and on the side, he also has his own software development agency. So, and this distinguished group of folks, all UH alum, so we'll be talking about that a lot. And with that, I do want to start off maybe with a better intro, not my intro, but would love if you guys could just talk about, if you want to share, what year did you graduate at UH, but also what are you currently working on? We don't have to go through the whole background, but what are you currently working on? I gave the company name, but maybe a little bit about your current role. Share with Aaron first.
Okay, hi. So I graduated way back in 2003 with my bachelor's degree, and got my master's degree in both in computer science. Kind of my biggest accomplishment in my education career is I worked at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California for a little while. And that really catapulted my career. And now I work for a company called Kentik, which is a global startup company. We monitor the largest networks of the largest internet companies and global service providers. We deal with 10 to 20 million things per second. I'm the engineering director of the platform team. What's interesting about us is we're a global team. I work in my house. We don't have an office. My engineers ranges from Tokyo to Italy and all across the United States. And so it's quite challenging to do what we do at scale, but to service the largest internet companies in the world and the largest service providers in the world is quite fun. So.
Awesome. Wow, how do I, sorry, is this on? There we go. I think this, okay, sorry about that. Wow, how do I follow that? So, hi everyone, I'm Nicole Cacao. Thank you, Jeff, for the great introduction as well. So, in a nutshell, I run an organization called Forbes Ignite. First, I graduated UH in 2011, December of 2011. I had to think about that for a second. But yeah, so I actually graduated with a degree in finance and international business from Scheidler. Worked in finance for a few years, decided to do a career pivot. So I went back to school, did my first graduate degree at the Parsons School of Design, studying strategic design. Then decided when graduate degree wasn't enough, so I went to Columbia to study technology management. I wanted to work at the intersection of business, design, and technology. And so I get to do that every day through Forbes Ignite. So we are a global consultancy that is part of the Forbes Media portfolio. We're the only consultancy with Forbes Media. And we focus squarely on innovation and digital transformation. And my passion is specifically within technology, sustainability, and social impact. And like Aaron was saying, our organization is pretty challenging to scale as well. It's a consultancy, not a SaaS company. So it's lots of learnings for the past 5 years that Forbes Ignite has been around. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have later on.
Aloha, my name is Imai-Hong. I am an avionics engineer at the Hawaii Space Flight Lab. I graduated in December of 2012 with my electrical engineering degree. I got a bachelor's, and that was where I stopped. And then all of my learning has been through working at the Space Flight Lab, and then more recently, we founded Mahina Aerospace, which I'm the CEO of, in January of 2023. We have designed a small satellite kit that is low cost, easy to put together. It can be assembled in 3 hours, an average time of 3 hours, and it has all of the mechanical, electrical, software, and educational materials needed to start your career in aerospace. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. I just got back from a launch in Florida yesterday, so a little jet lagged, but so I think in addition to all of that, I'm also the executive director of Ohana Kilohoku, which is a non-profit Native Hawaiian organization that supports space science and astronomy in Hawaii.
Hello everyone, my name is Brody. Graduated with my degree in computer science back in 2021, so just around 3 years ago now. During my time at UH, I was really focused on the field of quantitative finance. So I actually had the opportunity to intern while as a student at a quant hedge fund, as well as Deutsche Bank, which was in New York. Both part of their trading teams, but ultimately decided to pivot into tech instead. And that leads me to my current job. I currently work as a data engineer for an insurtech startup called KWH Analytics. And we provide climate insurance and solar portfolio analytics for the solar industry. But yeah, that's also on the side. I also run a small software consulting agency. But yeah.
All right, thank you guys. All right, so I got a lot of different questions, and I think we have a mixed career in the audience, so we'll go through them all. I've got a little bit about finding jobs, a little bit about your journey. I think that's one thing most people are really interested to hear. And then we'll get a little bit into like, what's the outlook for your different fields? And then everybody here has launched some sort of venture in their past, so we'll talk a little bit about launching ventures as well. So, okay. So let's start off with a little bit about finding jobs. Oh, and for each one, well, I might call on somebody, or if somebody wants to volunteer to answer. I'd love if like 1 or 2 people answered each question. We don't have to go down the row and have everyone answer. There's a lot of questions and not that much time. So, all right. So first, in regards to, let's throw a softball question out there. Finding a job. So what's your advice to new grads that are job hunting? How do they stand out in the interview process? And specifically, how do you think that differs in the technology fields that you're in versus like a non-tech field? I might start off with Aaron here, because I noticed in your LinkedIn you talked a lot about people management. So. Sure.
Yeah, so how many of you folks are actual students right now going to school? Okay, a lot of you. So my advice for finding a job starts while you're in school. My biggest thing is that you're at a university and there's so many opportunities here. If you just go to class and that's all you do, you're missing the opportunity. So when I went to the UH, I was the first computer science major in a long time to do the honors program. That's a huge distinguishing factor for me versus the other students. I did a thesis as an undergrad. That allowed me to get in graduate school, and that allowed me to work at the Jet Propulsion Lab. So I did research as an undergrad, I did research as a graduate student, I worked at the Jet Propulsion Lab. I did mock interviews as an undergrad. I applied to every place that I could think of in Hawaii so that I would go through this process of getting better at pitching myself. So all of it starts now. And I hope that you'll take advantage of the opportunities that you have around campus. And if it's not there, you have to, my advice is to go out there and find it. Talk to professors, say this is what I want, this is what I'm interested in. Can you introduce me to some companies here in Hawaii that might be doing those kinds of things? And Because so if you wait until you graduate, the opportunity has passed as a student. Does that make sense? So that's my biggest advice.
Awesome. Yes. Yes.
So I work with a lot of students. I manage a team of about 25 undergraduates. The thing that I always tell them is to look for opportunities, and if you can't find them, build your own. Whenever I'm hiring, I always make sure that students have some sort of project that they're passionate about. So even if you can't find a research opportunity on campus or with a professor, or if you haven't gotten something that works with you right now, start doing projects at home, tinker with things. One of the people that I hired, he did projects with Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. So like just this technology is so accessible now. There's so many tutorials online. Find something you're passionate about and just do it, and have something to be able to tell somebody who's hiring, because it's really helps you to stand out. And then showing your enthusiasm about something while you're in an interview also really helps you to stand out. We've definitely hired people at the Space Lab just based off of their enthusiasm about the projects that they talk about, and not necessarily the experience that they have.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I would also add that absolutely, while you're still a student, please take the advantage of being able to not only just talk to your professors, but to network. I can't stress the importance enough of just building your network. A lot of opportunities that came my way were by way of my network as well. And I would say, like she was just saying, if you don't see an opportunity that quite fits what you want to do, don't ask for permission to work on anything that you're passionate about. Start doing it on your own. And you can even supplement what you're learning at UH. There's lots of tutorials online. There's even, on Coursera, for example, you can audit courses for free without even paying for a subscription. And I would say, I didn't start this till I was in grad school, but I started my own little fledgling consultancy because I wanted to apply what I was learning right away and get my feet wet and just start building my experience. But if I could do it all over again, I would have started doing that in undergrad. Just starting to work on projects that I'm really passionate about, and then identifying ideal organizations that I would work for and reaching out to them. They really like people that take initiative, and so if you're searching for an opportunity out there, take the initiative and just go for it.
Okay, all right. So maybe Brody, I'll start with you on this next one. So I would love to know, what's the surprising skill or experience that you took away from UH? Something that surprised you, like now that you still benefit from? I think everyone's gonna think, oh yeah, like coding skills, right? But like, what's something that surprised you that you learned or achieved here that you continue to benefit from now?
Yeah, so surprisingly, I would say, yeah, definitely, you learn a lot of stuff on the job. So none of the stuff you really learn here at UH, this really just goes for computer science, I guess, but yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot of self-learning. And I think being part of UH, there's select courses that you go through, but a lot of the times when you get to the more advanced courses, you have to figure out things yourself. The teacher's not gonna handhold you. You're gonna have to implement things that you wouldn't necessarily know how to get started with. So researching around, especially on Google, trying to find things and how that can be implemented into your problem. That is something that is pretty much the day in the life of a software engineer in today's society, is basically problem solving and being able to self-learn, figure out things, and get things done. Yeah.
Surprising skill or experience?
So this touches a little bit on my journey, which we'll hopefully get to later, but growing up, I was a baseball player. And I played a lot of baseball, I did pretty well. And when I was in college, I started coaching. is coaching little kids. And that skill that I developed in my life during that time gave me the confidence to work with peers and to coach peers. And as an undergraduate, I started doing my undergraduate thesis, and one thing led to another, and I started teaching the class that I was in because I led an entire class through a project as part of my undergrad thesis. And it really gained the confidence, that's basically my answer, is that through my life events, outside of school and in school, I gained the confidence to be a mentor, to teach, to stand in front of the room, and just to own this subject matter, even though I was learning at the same time. And so I think those kinds of opportunities was surprising to me to develop.
All right. A little more about your journeys. I want to talk a little bit about career changes, because I think I get so many questions from the students about, what's the right path for me? Well, a lot of you might change your path, so I want to ask you guys about career changes. So, Nicole, you and I were talking about this at the beginning. Sounded like, Brody, you made a similar career pivot, but what's in your career pivot earlier on? Like, what's something you learned, and what's advice you have to give to students after you've gone through a career change?
Yeah, so I love this question because I would say I did a pretty substantial career pivot from finance into working in design and tech. I would say while you're in undergrad, take advantage of as many internships and opportunities as possible to figure out what you like, to figure out what you don't like. Don't just do it to put something on your resume. Definitely identify the things that you're passionate about and things that you want to focus on, because it's got to get you through the bad days, and it's going to get you through the good days as well. And so for me personally, when I decided, so I worked in finance for about 7-8 years. My last finance job was in private equity. I was doing investor relations, and while I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. So I did an internal audit of skills that I was good at, skills that I wanted to hone in on, and things that I cared about. And instead of, forgive my honesty, but instead of making rich people richer, I wanted to be able to help people bring in customer feedback into products and services and new business models, and really learn how to do true innovation, not just from a corporate standpoint, but from a new venture standpoint. And so that's why I went back to school. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Brody, if you also did a similar finance to tech pivot. Any advice to people post-pivot?
So I decided to change. I think it was the end of my junior year. I just finished my internship at Deutsche Bank, and I realized, I do not like this whatsoever. So the one thing I would say that really pushed me, or really helped me during this time, was definitely being curious. So there was a lot of things I didn't know, especially coming in, trying to gain a software engineering job at that point. So I researched the heck out of everything that I could, every single problem, whether it was related to my classes or trying to find an internship or anything that those job applications had listed as their requirements. I researched the heck out of it and tried to build, as people said before, projects to kind of match those skills so I could just put it on my resume. But yeah, that was pretty much it. It was just being curious and just trying to learn as much as possible.
All right, so looking ahead a little more, we might come back to a little more about your journey, but maybe since we do have like a mixed audience, I want to talk a little bit about your industries and looking ahead. And Amber, I'll come to you. So what do you think are some exciting growth areas? It could be either industries or functions that you think in the next 10 years are going to be a good area for 5 years, 10 years, for the next area for growth, for jobs. And specifically, if you have an opinion about specific jobs here in Hawaii.
So my industry is aerospace. It's something that we've been working to bring to Hawaii for a very long time, and working to grow, especially from the university. It breaks my heart that I train up these students and then I have to ship them off to the West Coast or even farther to get a good paying job. And so we at the Hawaii Space Flight Lab and Mahina Aerospace are working to build up the aerospace economy here in Hawaii. The Hawaii Space Flight Lab, Mahina Aerospace is the fourth startup company out of the Hawaii Space Flight Lab. So we have clearly interest, like we're training up good people. We have a lot of students, most of our students that are actively involved in HSFL goes off to work at a large aerospace company because that's the jobs that are available. We do have some of them working in local companies, but aerospace is one industry that I see growing very significantly in Hawaii in the next 10 years, especially with the amount of money and funding that the state is putting into that push as well.
What kind of degrees and roles do you guys look to recruit from?
So we typically hire mechanical, electrical, software engineering, computer science. There's also like a push for people from the business school, as well as law or poli-sci, because space law is becoming a really big industry, and it's kind of right now the aerospace industry operates under kind of the wild west of things. There's no real laws that prohibit people from doing things, so we assume that that's going to change relatively soon. Things are kind of shifting right now, so space law is going to be the next big thing, I think, and so yeah, we kind of hire from that pool generally, but we're always open to taking on students from any major as long as they're very interested and have a passion for space.
Awesome. Anybody else? Jobs, job growth. Where are the jobs coming?
I don't know the answer to that. I think the tech industry is changing so quickly with AI and all these things. All I know that right now the results of the world, the last few years is that remote work is so much more accessible. So I work for a global tech company, and Jeff also is kind of participates in this remote work. I don't know, even and so that is the thing that's happening now. I'm pretty sure it's gonna stay. I know that it's harder to hire new graduates in this remote work environment. It's harder to mentor, and so that is not necessarily good news for you. But it potentially means that you can live in the places that you want to work at some point in your career. And so I think things are challenging right now in terms of hiring and stability. But I think that just means that the more work that you need to put in to make your own opportunities.
Any other thoughts? All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the future of tech and tech jobs. What do you think your specific job or your team's job looks like in 10 years from now? With AI, with everything, what do you guys think? Anybody want to go first? Okay.
So I think from my personal experience and from my just working with my team, I'm a little bit biased. So I think 10 years from now, I think what is going to make, the skill sets that are going to make people so valuable that AI cannot subsume is like creativity. So being able to, it's not necessarily like you have to be a designer or you have to be a graphic designer or work in any specific traditional design field. It's just being really creative in the work function that you have. So, I mean, there are new jobs that are being created all the time. I mean, there wasn't prompt engineering like 2 years ago. I don't think, at least. So there are new roles that are being created all the time. And I mean, I've been hearing things like, just by way of how language is changing through the use of AI and generative AI and things like that, how well you can communicate ideas is really important as well. That's something that machines can't take over. There is this human element specifically within communication, creativity, and how you can persuade people to not only do the right thing within, let's say if you work in sustainability or if you work in social impact, things like that, highly stress that. Does anyone else want to add anything?
I don't know about 10 years, that's a pretty long time from now. Everything's changing so rapidly that, last year, or if we just go back a couple months, all the stuff with AI has been changing really rapidly. So I don't know about 10 years, but I can definitely say leveraging AI to make yourself more efficient is gonna be a huge thing. At my company, where, my management, they are now giving us passes for GitHub Copilot that they pay for, but they expect us to use. So even more so now, you're going to have to become more efficient of a developer if you're on the software side. Being able to actually leverage these tools to find solutions to your problems is going to be big. And just from what I've seen from a lot of startups that are popping up, it's leveraging more data, not necessarily from an AI perspective, but just making access to harness your data a whole lot easier. So there's a whole lot of new jobs popping up. This was before the AI craze, was like analytics engineering. That's a huge job now, or just like, it's on the similar scale of a data engineer, which is my current job. So there's a lot of things that are popping up. I think those are going to continue to increase the number of openings. So yeah, a lot of things to look forward to there.
Amber, any other thoughts, since you're kind of the space expert here? How does space jobs change in 10 years from now?
I think one of the key points is that you need to be flexible. You need to kind of not predict where the industry is moving, but just stay on top of technology. Like you said, like Brady said, it's all about like being able to pivot very quickly. You can keep like the aerospace world is changing pretty quickly, and I think in the 16 years that I've been doing small sats, the type of technology we can do is changed very, very much, like so much. When we first started, CubeSats were basically toys. Now we can collect data that's more precise than Landsat, which is the size of a school bus. So, I mean, technology is changing more rapidly probably than the industry itself, but those technological advances are going to propel us faster, propel us further and into space as well. They're trying to set up a moon base, and so a lot of this stuff, there's actually going to be a lot more interactions between different fields, I think, in the aerospace world. You're going to see more emphasis on, or we're already seeing more emphasis on like biology and like the biotech stuff, which is something that wasn't even there 3 years ago. So yeah, like we're going to see a lot more of that. We're seeing a lot more of psychology and sociology in the aerospace world. And like I said, space law has kind of popped up as the new hot topic.
I just wanted to add one more thing. So Amber was saying about being ready to pivot, and I agree with that. But what I also, when I hear Amber speak about space, she sounds like an expert, right? And AI is never going to replace her expertise. And so I'm an expert at what I do. I've been doing this for 15 years, and if AI takes my job, then that's fine. But I don't think that that's going to happen because I'm an expert at what I do. And so part of, I think, being durable in that regard is getting really deep in something. And so that's what I've done. I've done this area, and I've got really deep in big data and data processing, such that I'm an expert, and I can apply those things to other areas. And So I'm not super worried about that because I have that expertise. So I just wanted to, make maybe not a counterpoint to the pivot part, because I think there's a lot of value in getting really deep in things. And going back to the opportunities that you have at the university, research is a really great opportunity to get really deep in something. Being the expert at something is how you be more durable in your career.
Love it. Thank you guys so much. Okay, before we wrap up a little bit about starting new ventures, I have one more journey question for you guys. And it's a little volunteer if you want to share. But does anybody have like a failure or a setback that you could share? And obviously, like, what did you learn from it, and what advice could you give based on that? And if not, it's okay, but I'm curious if does anybody want to be vulnerable for a minute? All right, thank you so much.
I can be vulnerable for a minute. I would say when we started Forbes Ignite, my business partners and I had this idea, and yes, we had strong signals that this was an idea that people wanted. We did focus groups, we talked to people, we assumed that we found product market fit. And when you're starting any venture, if you don't have product market fit, don't do it yet. Like Steve Blank says, you have to get out the building. You have to talk to people. You have to do more than just validate your own thinking. You have to, like, just because someone is, let's say you have a product, just because someone is buying your product, the journey doesn't end there. Is there like stable user adoption? What else is happening in the customer journey? Are they falling off after 30 days? Are they returning your product? Things like that. So you just have to think about the entire customer journey. And when we started Forbes Ignite, I would say if I could do it all over again, we would definitely think more about the customer journey in that regard, and really find that product market fit.
I love it. All right, perfect segue. Let's talk a little bit more about starting new ventures, because all of you have started something, right? Either a company, a side venture, etc. So we'd love to hear, first, like, general advice for somebody. A question I hear a lot is, should I think about starting something fresh out of undergrad, or should I go get a job and start something later? And for folks that are maybe considering that, do you have any advice for that decision?
Yeah, so for me personally, starting a software development agency, I definitely found value in working professionally for a little bit of time at least. I recommend that for anyone that's thinking about starting anything in college. Definitely get some real world experience. Try and find different jobs, work there, learn as much as you can. Because the things that I found learning from these jobs, these other developers, have been instrumental in helping me along the way of starting my own venture. So I'm in the camp of definitely find a job first, learn as much as you can, and then go out there, start your own thing.
Love it. Any other opinions? Yes?
Yes, I love what Brody just said. The way I look at it is, especially when you're fresh out of school, get paid to learn. Learn from an existing organization, the things that they do well, the things that they don't do well. Just because, let's just say, if you work for a large corporation or a smaller one, whichever, just because someone says something is so, like, you have to question, and you have to really delineate what's good advice and what's bad advice, and you can only do that through experience. And then you can take all that experience and leverage that to start your own venture based on the pain points that you've identified within your own experience. And so people always talk about subject matter expertise, and they typically think about hard skills. But I would contend that subject matter expertise also involves lived experiences as well. So I wouldn't take that for granted. So I just wanted to add that.
All right. Any other thoughts?
I have thoughts about a lot of stuff. I think entrepreneurship is really hard. I don't think so I've started things, things have failed, and by no means am I a good entrepreneur. I'm a really good person to hire if you're an entrepreneur, because I'm going to get things done and make it work really well. So I don't think that, from my perspective, and I don't know if this is counter to what PACE folks say, but I think it's a really hard thing to do and to do well. And so my advice to people that want to do that is you have to find a mentor. You have to find an example of what that looks like in terms of success. And I think that that's what I would advise.
All right, all great advice. So follow-up to that, as you guys have been starting your own ventures along the way, what was something that's surprisingly difficult? I think everyone thinks, oh, coding or sales, finding a customer, but what was something that surprised you that was like, wow, that was a lot harder than I thought, and I didn't anticipate that being difficult? Maybe Amber, I'll start with you since you haven't spoken lately.
So one of the hardest things starting a venture out of UH, which was kind of unique, was figuring out the process and what we're allowed to do legally and what we're not allowed to do legally, and just some of the things that we are unaware of, or just there's so much red tape taking a technology out of the university, which is funny because this PACE is all about entrepreneurship, and we do a lot of great research. There's a lot of opportunities to market the research that's being done at the university. However, getting through the red tape has been amazingly hard. And like I said, we are the 4th company to come out of our research group. I thought that I had learned a lot from the failures of my predecessors, and I'm learning that there are still more things that we can trip over. So that has been one of the hardest things so far.
All right, anybody else? Surprising challenges, anybody else? Okay, all right. So I want to circle back with one last piece of advice for some of the students here before we get into one final fun question. Okay, so one last piece of advice, circling back to finding a job. You guys spoke a lot about trying a bunch of things, taking advantage of all the opportunities, and by default you're kind of talking about expanding your experiences. But I want to change and say honing in, right? What's your advice for finding the right fit for the right role or the right industry? Because sometimes it's hard to take all those experiences and figure out what's right for you. So for those searching, what is your experience for or what is your advice for finding the right fit in jobs, careers, roles, etc.?
I can kick things off. I would say, I was alluding to this a little bit earlier, but I don't know if this is the right term for it, but I would do an internal audit of things that you're good at, things that you don't like doing. There is this great book called Designing Your Life, and it uses the design thinking process on your life rather than a product or service. I would highly recommend that book. Can't remember the author's name, but it's called Designing Your Life. And it's really, really good at identifying what your personal purpose statement is. When someone asked me that, someone that I respect very, very much asked me, what is your personal purpose statement? I had no idea what she was talking about. But after reflecting on it, and I encourage every one of you to reflect on what your own personal purpose statement is. Mine personally is helping other people shine. I like to help other people, I like to help other entrepreneurs. I feel like I don't want to gatekeep my own entrepreneurship experience, but I would definitely, just try to design your life in a way that you want to see that. So, yeah.
All right, any other thought? Yep.
Yeah, so piece of advice here, I guess we're trying to find, echoing what Nicole said, definitely try and find things that you're into and narrow things down, because in the tech field, at least for software engineering, there's so many niche engineering jobs that if you're able to specialize in one of them, let's say for example DevOps or data engineer, analytics engineer, it makes you stand out that much more than just saying, oh, I coded this project, I was a software engineer, I want to become a software engineer. So try and narrow down, especially in the tech field, what exactly do you want to do? What are you good at? Do you like working with data? Do you like, doing DevOps things, infrastructure work? And that can really set you apart. So narrow down, get niche, and try and specialize in that.
My advice to somebody that's trying to find your way is to find a mentor. And I think it's really challenging for new graduates or students to know what the menu of things that are out there. So finding somebody further down in their career, like somebody like myself, that knows companies in Hawaii, that knows different companies out there, in different types of startup companies, that know these different types of roles. I could say, hey, I had a friend that went to a boot camp here in Hawaii, and he told me he wanted to work at Google. And I thought he was crazy, because he just learned coding. And he said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to Google. And I told him, if you do these things, I think you could get there. And he did those things, and he made it to Google. And I think if you find somebody that can give you advice on what road to take and help you to understand the things that you're liking, they basically can hear, oh, hey, I think that this DevOps might be for you. And that if that DevOps are for you, you should meet this company here. And these are the things that you should learn. These are the people you should talk to. This is the path that you could work. Do you want to stay in Hawaii? Do you want to work on the mainland? All of these things, people down the road can kind of give you advice on.
And to add on to that, absolutely find a mentor and network as much as you can. That really helps to refine what you want to do, because you can kind of process of elimination, figure out what other people do and what you don't want to do.
Love it. 4 different answers, but all great advice for those out there seeking new roles. Okay, so we're going to open it up. Before opening it up to questions from the audience, would love to hear your favorite memory from UH. Brody, we're going to start with you.
Oh man, let's see here. Favorite memory from UH? Surprisingly, well, let's see, what can I say? But anyway,
You can make it vague. It doesn't have to be too specific.
I think it's the friendships that I made throughout the way. And when you're going through a hard time, especially all the all-nighters and whatnot, you form these really close relationships. And there are people that I still talk to this day. So, definitely cherish the moment while you have it now. Because once you're like working remotely, there's nothing like that. So.
Amber.
This one's hard because I've been at UH for the past
Maybe your UH undergrad experience.
undergrad experience. Okay. One of my funniest UH memories is, I think it was finals week. I don't remember what year. A bunch of my friends and I were studying in the post-engineering study area. We were cramming for an exam. It was just about to, we were just getting ready for it. And right before we packed up, we got a UH alert. Like everyone in the area got a UH alert. There was some person who was wanted being chased by cops around downstairs, and they were like, be prepared to like bunker in place, and we're like, look, he can come in, whatever, we just need to finish this exam. And like everyone was just like, oh, go away. Like we were just trying to mute the notification because no one cared. It was just that point of craziness in finals. And that was one of my funniest memories.
I was just talking to Brody about this before we started. I would say sarcastically, my favorite memory at UH was sleeping in Sinclair Library for finals week. My birthday always falls during finals week in the winter. And I remember spending my birthday doing an all-nighter in Sinclair Library. But other than that, I think I would agree the friendships and the networking, like the people that I met through UH, even like alumni, definitely the alumni as well. They really enriched my experience in undergrad. And I think if I had just gone to class, went home, didn't do any extracurriculars or anything like that, I would have really missed out. So that really contributed to my experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I was just thinking about it. It's like I worked really hard at school, but that's kind of a lie. My son's back there. He's going to go to college soon. But I had lots of fun at UH. Like we would go surfing after class. I thought that was the best thing because I'm a surfer too, and like we don't have to go to class all day. We could go surfing. We'd go to Rainbows and cruise around. And we used to skateboard here on campus. Cause all kinds of, had a lot of fun, and I probably what we said up here maybe stressed a lot of people out in terms of you have to do a lot of opportunities and stuff like that. But I think the reason why all these people are probably successful is that they're just good people, and I think part of your UH experience is about growing as a person and having fun and forming relationships. And I certainly was not studying all the time. And so I just having fun was like the best thing about going to UH.
Love it. All right. So with that said, would love if anybody who had a question in the audience, please feel free. Do you guys, Danny, should they just step up here or pass the mic around? Or? Yep, okay. Questions? Questions? A lot of great advice here, guys. All right.
I can just
Okay,
talk.
great.
Would you recommend, after you finish your undergrad, I've heard some of your professors are like, you can't go into the industry because you're just gonna do the small work. You're not really gonna get into your field. Would you recommend getting a master's or a PhD, or is it a good idea to just go straight to the industry?
I can answer that. I'm biased, just based on my experience. I would recommend, there's nothing wrong with getting experience and getting your feet wet. This might be a little controversial, but I would say that if you can, I think getting a job at a startup was like getting 10 MBAs, honestly. You wear so many different hats, and you can provide a lot of value at a young startup or or late stage startup, whichever. But you can add a lot of value, and that goes a very, very long way. And I learned a lot just by working within startups, advising startups. Just being in that world. So there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else to get experience in the first few years.
To add on to that, I think a master's degree is fine. PhDs are really for people who want to be in the research field. So if that's a career goal of yours, then that's absolutely okay. I don't think that you need to get that higher education. And there are companies that will pay for your higher education. So if you work at a large company instead of a startup, a lot of times they will pay you to go to school to get the additional training or knowledge that you need to do your job.
I just wanted to, so I got my master's degree right after my master's degree. And, I think it really depends on you. And so, again, finding a mentor that can help you to weigh those decisions or the opportunities that you would get. So if you apply to a master's program and you could be a research assistant, doing that kind of work that you want to do eventually, then of course that sounds like a good opportunity. But if you could work for that same kind of company, doing that same kind of work, then those are the kinds of things that you would have to explore. And so it kind of depends. It depends on the opportunities that you could find. For me personally, I felt like I was not ready to be a professional software engineer. I felt that I wanted to learn more, and the university is designed to teach you. So I felt like if I'm not ready, if I'm just going to be an average player, going into the workforce, I would rather prepare myself to be an A player. Right?
Oh yeah.
Hi, I'm Kevin. Thank you for all of these amazing pieces of advice. The current So I run a mentor program. I just started a startup called Hawaii Tech Mentors, and what I'm seeing among the mentee set is that they're having to face a lot of rejection. And I wanted to prompt you guys to talk about kind of resilience and the kind of what you say to yourself after you get the no or the ghost, and how you manage those disappointing moments. Because I think a lot of people are a few rejections away from pivoting to their plan B, C, or D.
Yeah, I can take a stab at this. I think after you start doing like a lot of applications, it kind of becomes numbing at a certain point, you know. Sorry, unfortunately, we decided to go with someone else. You see that all the time, and just don't take it personally. A lot of these are just automated anyways, so they probably didn't even read your application. So honestly, just, yeah, number one thing, keep on going. I've gone through hundreds of applications, thousands. And yeah, it's a rough time right now. It's way different from when I was applying back then, a couple years ago. But yeah, the market has shifted. I know it's a lot harder now. So best piece of advice is just to keep on going. If you know that you want to do this, but if you're swayed off, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not the right career for you. But yeah, definitely keep on pushing.
Another thing is to find a kind of close group of people who will be very honest with you, but also kind of help to be your support. So like finding near peer mentors, finding people who are going to be rooting for you, but will be very honest with you, and that is super helpful when you're early career. Just to, you know, they will also slap you back down, but they will be there. They will be the first ones cheering for you when you get that position, when you finally get that yes.
Also, as a student who's on the brink of graduation, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially at a young age. But like, there's a lot of options. People are always telling what's the right thing to do, like getting a master's degree or getting internships, or there's a lot of options. But like, there's another idea of like following your heart. So I want to hear everybody talk about like their experience following your heart, whether it worked out or it didn't work out, like a personal experience.
Oh, I go first. That's like a deep question.
I'll take a stab at that first. So I think you'll always be successful if you follow your passion. So like figure out what you want, your personal statement, like figure out what your goals are for right now. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Don't be afraid to make pivots, but also like figure out what your purpose is and like what you want to achieve and work towards that. I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now. The whole industry, like at the tech industry, has just shifted completely in the past 18 months or so. But figuring out what it is at the core, what your values are, and working towards that. And unfortunately, life is tough and you will fail, but having a good support group is really helpful.
I love what you just said, and I think when you follow your heart, when you follow your passion, like I was saying earlier, it's got to get you through the bad days. So you really have to know what you really want to do, and it's like, so you know the saying, when you fail, you just found another way that doesn't work. So a failure is never just like a final no. It's just you have to try something else. And I would, this sounds odd, but I feel like I've failed in so many different types of things that I'm just like, I don't really let it get to me personally, because the faster you fail, it just speed tracks your way up until finding something that does work. So I would say, yeah, that would be my experience.
The idea of like failing forward, right?
Yeah, so I guess my story didn't really, know that I wanted to go. It wasn't really my passion. Didn't come into college thinking, yeah, I want to become a software engineer. But I think the core thing about this type of role is just problem solving at the end of the day. And that's the one thing that I enjoy about my job is that there's difficult things, right? You can't solve it. But once you are able to solve something or piece something together and build it, for me at least, that was the most rewarding part, was seeing something, yeah, I actually solved this, I was able to solve this problem, all myself. So in that sense it's rewarding, but I wasn't like, yeah, I want to just become a software engineer, that's my one goal in life. Yeah, it was definitely not.